get ready for generational blessing. This understanding of generational blessing is really, really important. Whether you are parenting in a home or whether you are single and sometime in the future might be having a family of your own, I think the focus of today will find all of us in one way or another. And so to that end, I think it's important for me to say that no person lives or dies unto himself, which is to say that your life has ramifications, that your life has impact, that you have to understand that what you do and what you determine for yourself does have impact on others. The choices you are making will affect your family line, watch now, for generations to come. How you live today will determine how your children live tomorrow. Every right choice that you make, you're making it easier on those that come after you. So think about that. The way that you live now, the choices that you make now makes it easier on your children and your children's children. Watch this. If you will deal with the hard decisions today, it will cause for an easier tomorrow for your children. I don't know about you, but I want my children to have an easier way than I did. Anybody want your children to have an easier way? And so when you live and purpose to live a life of excellence and purpose to live a life of integrity, when you purpose to live a life of being your best, helping others, these are seeds that make your life fuller, but also will reap great reward in your children's life as well. I don't know about you, but I want my children, my sons and daughters yet to be born, I want them to do great things because of me, not in spite of me. Oh, did you hear the difference there? I don't want them to have to be great in spite of dad, in spite of grandpa, but I want to live my life in such a way that they can be great because of what I've done, that I gave them a jump start, that I gave them a head start, that I lifted them up a little higher, that they didn't have to break through some barriers because I broke through some barriers for them, that they ain't got to cut loose some chains, but I cut some chains loose for them. Do I have anybody that wants to leave a legacy for their children and their children's children? Make a little noise right here, because we want our children to be more blessed than we are. So the understanding then becomes then that our children then will be further ahead of us, that they won't have some of the baggage in their life that we are carrying in our life. Last week when we began looking at this, we began looking at the idea that you've got a bag. I think I've got a bag, and when you come to the planet, when you're born, you come to the earth with something. Thank you, sir. You come to the earth with something. Just hit your neighbor, and tell him you came to the earth with some stuff. You came. Yes, you did. Yes, you did. Everybody came with some stuff. Yeah, you didn't come in here squeaky clean. Look at your neighbor and tell them that means you too. That means you too. Yeah, it means you. Everybody came with some stuff. And so when we're on our journey of life, we all have a bag. We have baggage that we are carrying. And so we're going to look at the bag again, because last week when we looked at the bag, we saw that there's some things that we're carrying in there that aren't blessings, they are burdens. So in your bag there's blessing. Everybody say blessing. But also in your bag there are burdens. Say burdens. Last week we looked at the burdens: generational trauma, generational cycles, and generational curses would all be burdens that you're carrying in your bag, and they weigh you down. They weigh you down. They make life a little heavier than it ought to be. They make life a little bit more cumbersome than it needs to be. They cause you to not be hands-free, but now your hands are full and you're not able to operate and to function and to move like you otherwise would if you had the freedom of not having that baggage that you're carrying from previous generations. But in the bag, not only are there burdens that we have to deal with, but I want to move now that I think there's blessings that we also have in our bag. And if you by chance are here and you have no blessing in your bag, you can be the one that starts putting some blessings in the bag for the generations that are yet to come. Everybody say, I'm going to put some blessings in the bag. I'm going to put some blessings in the bag. Yeah, put some blessings in the bag. And so we're going to work with the bag in just a moment. But as we look at that, it's the idea, it's the concept of creating legacy. That we're called to create legacy. That the way that we should look at our life is not just isolated, that we're here just for the duration of time that we're breathing air on the planet, but rather we should look at it as a marathon. Not just me running my race by myself, but understanding that I've been handed something, and I want to run my race in such a way that I can hand something to the next generation, that the way that I run will determine how it sets up the next leg of the race. Legacy. Everybody say legacy. Yeah. So the scripture talks all throughout about storing up mercy and storing up blessing for our future generations. It's the understanding that I know where I am at today, but I'm believing and I'm putting my faith forward for where I want my children to be tomorrow. 1 Timothy chapter 5, verse 8 says it this way: anyone who does not provide for their relatives and especially for their own household has denied the faith and is worse than an unbeliever. Did you hear that? It says anyone who does not provide for their relatives or for their household. So this is the idea of legacy once again, that I want to provide for those that are coming after me, that I can't be so consumed with me, myself, and I, living myself only for myself and not have my mind thinking about legacy. Proverbs 13, verse 22 says it this way: a good person leaves. Everybody say leaves. Come on, everybody say leaves. A good person leaves an inheritance for their children's children, but a sinner's wealth is stored up for the righteous. This is so important because, again, every choice that you make, you're holding up the hands of the next generation. Every time you resist temptation, you're winning for the next generation. Every time you help somebody else, every time you choose to come to church rather than stay at home, every time you choose to serve rather than being served, you're storing up favor for the next generation. You're setting up a legacy for those that you may not even see or know their name, but they'll be able to look back and say, because of grandma, because of grandpa, because of the one that came before me, I'm living in the blessing. I don't know about you, but I want to live a life that leaves a legacy for my children's children. If I'm not alone in the room, make a little noise right here. Yeah. Tell your neighbor, it matters how you live. It matters. Yes, it does. It matters how you live. So let's move quickly and get an understanding of blessing. I want to give you maybe this definition of blessing. It's a little long, but I think it encompasses what I want to convey to you this morning in understanding this spiritual force, this spiritual dynamic, this spiritual power called blessing. Here it is. A blessing is a pronunciation which imparts spiritual power. So the idea is blessing is a spiritual power, opening the way for us in life. Note here that the blessing, it begins to open up some things for you. Yeah. Giving us approval and confidence. When the blessing is on you and you have an understanding and awareness that you are blessed, you walk a little different. You talk a little different. You got your head up when you know you are blessed. You got your shoulders back when you know you are blessed. You walk with a little bit more strength when you know that you are blessed. It gives you a sense of approval and confidence and power for us to succeed. See, the blessing allows you to succeed where others have failed. The blessing allows you to overcome where others went under. The blessing allows you to reap where others have not been able to see a harvest. It's something that goes beyond your skill, your talent, your ability, your intellect, your experience, your bank account. I don't know about you, but when I look back over my life, there's some things that have happened in my life that I know good and doggone well it didn't have nothing to do with me. But it was because of the blessing of the Lord that was on my life. The Bible says about the blessing that the blessing of the Lord maketh rich and addeth no sorrow. Oh, can you take about 3 seconds and give God praise for the blessing of the Lord that maketh, it produceth, it worketh in your life. No, you acting like you got here by yourself. You acting like you came in through these doors because of your own strength and power. I need somebody that knows, had it not been for the Lord that was on my side, I would not be here today. But thanks be unto God, for his blessing that maketh rich and addeth no sorrow. Give the Lord a praise right here for the blessing. Power. Someone say power. I can't feel you say power. And power for us to see. Watch this. It is a grace that enables us to become what we are meant to become. Did you hear that? It implies that you cannot become everything that God has destined and designed for you to become without the blessing. But with the blessing, I can be who he's called me to be. I can do what he's called me to do. I can have what he's called me to have. I can go where he's called me to go. Why? Because the blessing of the Lord is on my life. It enables us to become what we're meant to become. Watch this. And to achieve what we are meant to achieve. Everybody say that's the blessing. That's the blessing. So where last week we talked about the curse is like you trying to run underwater, where there is that continual resistance and that continual pushback. The blessing is like having the wind behind your back. In track, they do it this way, that when they run, it's interesting because when records are set, they always have to take into account whether or not it was wind aided. Because they understand that if the wind is at your back, you're going to run faster than what you're able to run in your own strength. So they got to make sure that the record is legit by making sure it wasn't wind aided. But the blessing is such that when you got the wind at your back, it is the Spirit of God aiding you in every area of your life. He's aiding me in my marriage. He's aiding me with my children. He's aiding me on the job. He's aiding me at school. He's aiding me when I go out. He's aiding me when I come in. He's aiding me when I'm in the city, and he's aiding me when I'm in the field. I don't know about you, but I want to live a life where I got the wind at my back. I got the Spirit propelling and moving me forward. Anybody ready to run the race with the wind of God blowing? Woo-wee. Tell your neighbor, it's at my back, it's at my back. Yeah. Now watch this, because then now when we understand the blessing, it sets us up to understand generational blessing. Here's your definition. A generational blessing is carried by one generation. It can and should be passed on to another. Watch this now. So the idea is that one generation carries something. They put some stuff in the bag. And what they've got in the bag is helping them. Not hurting them, helping them. And the idea is that what they have should be passed on to the next generation. so that they don't start with an empty. Can you think about how much further you would be if you had some stuff in your bag that wasn't burden, but rather it was blessing? So the idea when we talk about generational blessing is that it's carried by one generation and can and should be passed to another. Very often, if you do not receive that blessing by impartation, watch this, it is lost. So watch this. It's possible for a previous generation to have blessing in a bag, but if it is not imparted to the next generation, it's lost. And now that generation has to start over. The victories that you win, don't let them be lost. The battles that you overcome, don't let it be lost. The territory that you take, don't let it be lost. Ooh. The devils that you slay, don't let them get back up in the next generation. Hey, you got to impart to your son. You got to impart to your daughter. You got to give them something that will cause them to rise above where you have been. It's the idea of legacy and generational blessing. God has called you to live a life that's greater than your own. Generations are at stake. Are you following me? Now watch this here. I got to show you this story, and my time is moving. Here, go to Genesis 25. Genesis 25, beginning at verse 5. Someone say generational blessing. Watch this story. Genesis chapter 25, and you know we've been talking about God being a generational God, right? He's the God of Abraham, Isaac, and who? Jacob, right? He's a generational God. And we showed you the negative side, what moved through the bloodline a few weeks ago. I want to go the other side and watch this here, the positive side. Genesis 25, beginning of verse 5 through 11. And Abraham gave all, he gave what? All. He gave what? All. Abraham gave all that he had to Isaac. What did he give? How much did he give? But verse 6 says, but Abraham gave gifts to the sons of the concubines which Abraham had while he was still living. He sent them eastward away from Isaac his son to the country of the east. Now when I read that, I don't know about you, I scratched my head because it said that Abraham gave what to Isaac? He gave what? But verse 6, he says he gave what to the sons of, he gave gifts. Now, I thought he gave all. If he gave all, how is he still giving? Goes on here. If we read now, I don't have time, so you just have to read on your own time, verses 7 all the way down to verse 11. Let's just jump all the way down to it. And it came to pass after the death of Abraham that God blessed who? His son, Isaac. And Isaac dwelt in Beer Lahai Roi. Now, let's jump all the way to Genesis 26, verses 12 through 19. When Isaac planted his crops that year, he harvested 100 times more. Whew. Someone say 100 times more. He harvested 100 times more grain than he planted. Why? For the Lord blessed him. So here he gets 100-fold blessing because of the blessing that was on his life. He became very rich. His wealth continued to grow. He acquired so many flocks of sheep and goats and herds and cattle, servants, that the Philistines became jealous of him. Now, that's what you got to know about the blessing. The blessing now will produce haters. You just got to know that. You got to be okay with that. That to be blessed means some folks ain't going to like it. Some folks going to talk behind your back. Some folks going to be chitter chatter. Some folks going to get... That's why everybody can't walk in blessing. Because they don't know how to deal with haters. And when the haters show up, they lose their blessing because they get all in the flesh with the hate. Oh, that's what I'm supposed to be teaching. Let me get back. Let me get back. So where was I at? I'm here, and we've got, the Philistines got jealous. Verse 15. So the Philistines filled up all Isaac's wells with dirt. See how they start slinging mud? That's what the haters do. These were the wells that had been dug by the servants of who? His father. Finally, Abimelech ordered Isaac to leave the country. Go somewhere. Get up out of here and go somewhere with your blessed self because you too powerful for us. Isn't that something? The haters will want to get rid of you because of the blessing that is on you. That's why when they start talking about you on the job and they won't let you sit with them at the lunch table and won't nobody invite you to their little post-job party, you just have to say to yourself, I don't care. I'm going to pray for you anyway, and I'm going to walk on in the blessing that is on my life. I ain't got time to be in a pity party because you won't let me go to your pity little party. Oh, I just felt good in my spirit right there. That's all. I just felt good in my spirit. Let me keep on here. Let me keep on. Tell somebody, say, Pastor, keep on. Just keep on. Here it is. Verse 17. So Isaac moved away from the Gerar Valley, where he set up his tents and settled down. He reopened the wells of who? His father, which the Philistines had filled after Abraham's death. Isaac also restored the names of Abraham that Abraham had given them. Isaac's servants also dug in the valley of Gerar and discovered a well of fresh water. Man, there's so much there. I got to move through it really quickly. What I need you to get here is, let's go back up to the original thing. It said now that Abraham gave to Isaac all. But he gave to the sons of the concubines gifts. I need you to get the distinction, because if you're gonna live a life of legacy, you got to understand what it means to give all and what it means to give gifts. And if we don't understand it, watch this, we'll get caught up in giving our children gifts, but we don't give them all. I want to suggest that what Abraham gave to Isaac was not gifts, material things, but he gave him all that his spirit carried. He gave him the wisdom. He gave him the revelation. He gave him the experience of his walk. He gave him a deposit of what God had released inside of him. He gave him all that he carried in his spirit. And we live in a day, in a culture, in a time where we'll give our kids all kind of stuff. But when the going gets tough, the stuff can't match the toughness of the day, and we wonder why they stressed out, filled with anxiety, overwhelmed, thinking about suicide, because you gave them gifts, but you did not give them all that you had in your spirit that God had deposited on the inside from generations. You got to give them more than material goods. You got to give them more than basketball games and soccer games and football games. You got to give them more than a bike and some new J's. You better put something on the inside of them so that when the famine comes, they will still be able to stand, knowing that God brought my parents through, and thus I know he's able to bring me through. You better leave a legacy. Oh, I hope you're hearing me today. Because the trick of the day is this, oh, you ain't gonna like me. We so worried about work-life balance that we bought into the lie that church is harmful for your children. Oh, see, I lost you. You so worried that your kid got his trumpet at band camp. Got his shoulder pads for football, but he don't know nothing about the Bible. Don't know nothing about prayer. Don't know nothing. And I'm here to tell you that trumpet and them shoulder pads ain't gonna get them through when they feel like taking their life. Oh. I'm stirred up now because I see too many. I'm watching the statistics. Kids don't know which way to go, don't know which way to turn, but they happy about being at football. They happy at being about soccer. And I'm not saying don't do those things, but you better know your priorities. I can't bring my kid to church because they got to work at McDonald's for $5.67. Oh, see. Don't get so concerned about teaching your child how to make a living that you don't teach them how to live. No. These numbers keep going up. Kids on depression meds, and kids are filled with anxiety, and kids got social anxiety disorders, and kids don't know, gender dysphoria, and got all kind of stuff. It's no coincidence that is going up while you taking them out. Again, I'm not saying that your kids can't play football and they can't, cart around the tube, but do all that. But you better know how to make sure you give them more than gifts. You better give them what Abraham did, give them all. Because when the enemy showed up, notice what Isaac did. He went back to the wells that his father dug. He didn't have to go find a place to dig. He went back to the place that his father had dug. The implication is that we better dig some stuff in our day that our generations behind us can return to in their day. Jump up on your feet, find 2 or 3 people and ask them, are you digging? Are you digging? Are you digging? Are you digging? What you doing? Are you digging or smiling? Are you digging or you grinning? Are you digging? What is you doing with your life? What is you doing with your life? Isaac said, I'm going to go back to what my daddy dug. Because when my daddy dug, there was some water. When my daddy dug, something came up. Said he went back and reopened the wells that his daddy dug. Someone say generational blessing. That's generational blessing right there. I don't have time. I gotta move quick. Because we got baptism. I just want to suggest a few things that you want to pass on, that you want to make sure that's in your bag. I'm gonna move quickly here. No, last week when we worked with this, I used this metaphor of a bag, and I have boots in the bag. I have boots in the bag because boots spoke to me of journey, your walk, and boots for me spoke of how tough the journey can be. Boots spoke to me of the heaviness that is on you by having to wear those boots. And so I thought to carry the metaphor, let me switch it. And so to me, instead of boots, I thought about tennis shoes. I thought about tennis shoes because tennis shoes are more comfortable. Tennis shoes make you run a little faster. Tennis shoes make things a little easier. And that's what the blessing does. The blessing helps you to run a little faster. The blessing is a lot more comfortable. The blessing makes things a little easier. So here's the first thing that we want to suggest that you need to put in your bag. Here it is. You want to put in your bag faith. 2 Timothy chapter 1, verses 2 through 5 say this. To Timothy, my dear son, grace, mercy, and peace from God the Father, Jesus Christ our Lord. I thank God, whom I serve as my ancestors did, with a clear conscience, as night and day I constantly remember you in my prayers. Here it is. Recalling your tears, I long to see you so that I may be filled with joy. I am reminded of your sincere faith. Watch this. Which lived in your grandmother, Lois. She had it in her bag. But she didn't keep it in her bag. She passed it on to Eunice, Timothy's mother. And I'm persuaded now lives in you. Did you see that? Lois had faith in the bag. But Lois said, I'm going to leave a legacy, and the faith that's in me, I'm going to put it in Eunice, my daughter. Because the faith that I have is not supposed to die with me. It's got to be imparted. It's got to be deposited. I'm going to put the faith that's in me, I'm going to put it in Eunice, and Eunice is going to put it in Timothy. And watch what Paul says. Paul says, I can see that living faith that has moved generationally from your grandmother to your mother and is now in you. I see it. Faith. I'm suggesting that we put in the bag faith. The ability to trust God, the ability to believe God, the ability to step out on God's word. Your kids, your children ought to see you believing God. They ought to see you stepping out on his word. They ought to see you trusting him when it looks like there's nothing else to trust in. You're leaning upon the Lord. Everybody say faith. Let's get another one here. We got another pair of tennis shoes in here because tennis shoes speak of the blessing which helps us to run a little faster. Here it is. I got to move quickly here because the next one is your testimony. Your testimony. Here it is. Psalms 145, verses 3 through 4. Great is the Lord. He is the most worthy of praise. No one can measure his greatness. Watch this. Let each generation tell his children of your mighty acts. Let them proclaim your power. Your kids got to know your testimony. They got to know your testimony. Here it is. We can talk to our children about all kinds of things, but it is most important that they hear from you what God has done in your life. You got to talk to them about more than whatever is happening in culture. You got to talk to them more about the latest movie that came out, the latest score on the scoreboard. You better talk to them about what God has done for you. Tell them about how his grace and his mercy has operated in your life. Watch this. You better tell them your grace testimonies and tell them your mercy testimonies. Do you know the difference? A grace testimony is you telling them what God has done for you that you didn't deserve. When I look back over my life, I got some grace testimonies. That there's some things that God did for me that I did not earn. I did not deserve. I did not qualify for. I fell short, but God did it anyway. Anybody got some grace testimonies, some grace testimonies? Now watch this. We are more apt to tell them our grace testimonies than our mercy testimonies. A mercy testimony is what God withheld from you that you do deserve. Oh, you missed that one right there. It's when you did some dirt And God spared you the repercussions of the dirt that you did. It's when you tell your children, I made some bad decisions, went down some wrong roads, made some bad choices, but because of his mercy, he spared my life. He kept my mind intact. He kept me out of jail. Anybody got some mercy testimonies? I think you ought to have in your bag not only faith, your testimony, but watch this here. Let's see what else we got in here. Here's the next one, and that is your training. You ever been out to a restaurant and you're trying to enjoy your food and you look over at the table next to you and just about when you're getting ready to take that first good bite of your food, somebody's kids is acting like they ain't got no home. None. Just buck wild all up in the restaurant, loud, throwing food, just acting up. And you think to yourself, I wish you and your no training having kids would order a Happy Meal and go on home somewhere. Y'all messing my, oh God, I'm the only one. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. That's what I be thinking. And sometimes no, I be thinking it. I don't say it. I don't. Here's what it says in Deuteronomy chapter 11, verses 18 through 21. So commit yourselves wholeheartedly to these words of mine. Tie them to your hands and wear them on your foreheads as reminders. Teach them to your children. Your children ain't gonna get it by osmosis. Teach them to your children. Talk about them when you are at home. That's presuming you come home. You at home. And when you are on the road, when you are going to bed, and when you get up, consistency. Somebody say consistency. Write them on the doorposts of your what? House and on your gates, so that as long as the sky remains above the earth, you and your children may what? Flourish in the land the Lord swore to give your ancestors. You got to train your children in the things of God. I still remember my dad getting me up on Saturday mornings after going to school on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. He still get me up on Saturday mornings. Jeff, get up. We got to go to the church. We got to go to the church. He take me down to the church because we gonna work at the church. We gonna go sweep. We gonna go mop. We gonna go do this or that. We got to go to prayer. We gonna get up. He didn't just say, oh, you've been getting up 5 days a week. You ought to sleep in. No, he trained me what it meant to serve in the house of God, to love the house of God, to think about something other than myself, to sacrifice for something greater than myself. You got to train your children in the things of God. They're not just going to get a want to because you want them to. They're going to get a want to because you show them how to. You train them. You put it in them. Like Abraham, you give them all. Let me just set these shoes right there. All right. I'm almost done. You can play because we're almost done. Here it is. You give them, number one, faith. Everybody say faith. You give them number two, testimony. Say testimony. Number three, you give them training. Everybody say training. Give them your reputation. Proverbs 22, verse 1 says this: a good name is to be chosen rather than riches, loving favor rather than silver and gold. Did you hear that? A good name is more valuable than riches. A good name, a good name, a good name. I remember my first real job. Of course, I had paper routes and I worked in the bag room at the country club there. But my first job, working for the city, I got really because of my dad's name. And I remember putting my application in, and my application was circling around, and I remember after I got the job, it was told me that when we found out you were Wheeler Smith's son, we just put your name in the pile to go ahead and give you the job. My dad had a name that opened doors for me. My dad, for years, was an educator in the high school ranks and taught mathematics and Also was a trainer for the football team in the early years and did that and went on and got his Ph.D. and became the first African-American child psychologist for the Toledo Board of Education. So all throughout the system, they knew my dad's name. Students that he taught over the years, I would run into them and they would talk about how my dad impacted their life. My dad served as a deacon in the church for years, and his faithfulness, his consistency opened doors for me. People that would not give me a second look gave me a second look because of his name. How many know you can't really buy that? That's more valuable. That I didn't even have to open up my mouth. I didn't even have to perform anything. When they knew that Wheeler Smith was my dad, they said, come on, you got the job. I wonder, are we paying attention to the reputation, the name? Are we living our lives so selfishly, so recklessly, that we don't understand that our name lives on even after us? And some kids, instead of them being able to stand on the strength of their parents' name, when their parents' name is mentioned, they got to go stuttering and explaining. Well, see, what had happened was, what kind of name, what kind of reputation are we building? Watch this. It says this in 1 Peter chapter 2, verse 15. It is God's will that your honorable lives should silence those ignorant people who make foolish accusations against you. Man, I love that verse. And sometimes you don't have to say anything. You just live right. That's what my mom used to say. You just keep on living right. And the folks talking about you gonna eat their words. The folks running you down, talking behind your back, all that gossip and mess, you just keep on living right. Don't you stoop to the level of their accusation. You keep on living right and watch your life make a liar out of them. Oh, I've seen him do it over and over again. Tell your neighbor, keep on living right. Keep on living right. Last pair of shoes. That was reputation. Here's the last one. Last one in the bag. In the bag. That you want to run your race with, that you want to make sure you have on your journey, is generosity. It's generosity. What you sow today, the harvest of that will not be fully realized in your life. But what you sow today will bring harvest for generations yet to come. I'm aware that whatever level of blessing I enjoy in my life is not solely because of what I've sown in my lifetime. I have enough insight, enough gratefulness to say there were seeds that were sown before I even made it to the planet that I'm reaping. Prayers my grandmother prayed. Hebrews chapter 7 says it this way. Here mortal men receive tithe. Watch the power of this verse. But there he receives them, of whom it is witnessed that he lives. Watch this. Even Levi, who receives tithes, Levi was a priest. The priest received tithe in biblical days. goes on to say, paid tithes through Abraham, so to speak, for he was still in the loins of his father when Melchizedek met him. Do y'all see that? Here's what it's saying. It's saying that Levi, who was a descendant of Abraham, the Bible says it was counted that he paid tithes, while Abraham still carried him in his loins. Levi wasn't even born yet. Abraham was carrying him as seed in his own loins. But the tithe that he gave, the seed that he sowed, the offerings that he gave, the vows that he paid, was not just counted unto him, but to his children's children. That's why you ought not be selfish. That's why you ought not be stingy. That's why you ought not hoard things unto yourself. Because what you sow today, your children will reap tomorrow. You better be generous. You better live your life with your hands wide open, your arms wide open, your heart wide open. Give, and it shall be given back unto you, pressed down, shaken together, and running over, not just to you, but to those that will follow after you.